Okay, so take a look at this. On the surface, what you're seeing is this incredible environmental success story. Over in As Pontes, Spain, what once was a giant scar from a coal mine has been turned into this beautiful, massive lake. It's an amazing feat of restoration. But as we're about to find out, beneath that calm water lies a really deep and bitter conflict.
I mean, just look at this place. It's a picture-perfect paradise, right? You've got people on the beach, boats out on this gorgeous blue water. You would never ever guess that this entire landscape was built from the rubble of Spain's biggest open-pit mine. It really does look like the ultimate happy ending to a pretty dirty industrial story. But for a lot of the people who live here, it is anything but a happy ending.
And then you get this. A quote from a local, and wow, it is raw. It's angry. It's a total 180 from that beautiful beach scene we just saw, isn't it? It's our first real clue that not everyone looks at this water and sees a paradise. For some, it's something else entirely, something that makes them absolutely furious.
So here's the puzzle we're going to unpack. On one hand, you have a technical masterpiece. I mean, the engineering here is incredible. The water's clean, it's safe, it's beautiful. So what's the deal? Why is it also a social flashpoint? Why all the anger? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go back. We have to dig into the town's history.
You see, you really can't understand the lake without understanding the mine that came before it, because that mine didn't just change the landscape, it completely transformed the people, the culture, the entire soul of this place. And this transformation, it was huge, and it happened fast. As Pontes went from this quiet farming community to a full-blown industrial giant. There was a small boom back in the 40s, but the 70s, that was a seismic shift. Spain's biggest power plant gets built, and for the next 30 years, this massive mine just eats up the landscape. And then it stops. And in only 4 years, that giant hole in the ground is filled with water and it becomes the lake.
And check this out from above. The satellite view really tells the story. On the left, that's As Pontes in 1945, a pretty typical small town, right? Surrounded by green. Now look at the right. Only 35 years later, and it's like a giant wound has been carved into the land. The sheer size of the mine's footprint is just staggering. It didn't just surround the town, it swallowed up the landscape, even whole villages.
And if you need a number to wrap your head around the scale, here it is. 260 million tons of coal. Think about that. That's a mind-boggling amount. It fueled a massive economic boom, for sure, but it also left a wound on the land to match.
Okay, so this is the big reveal, the ultimate before and after shot. Up top, you see the mine pit. It's basically a man-made canyon. And then below it, that exact same spot, now filled with this huge, calm lake. This is the money shot for the engineers, right? It looks like the wound is totally healed. But, as we're starting to see, fixing the land, that's one thing. Fixing our community, that's a whole other ballgame.
And that's really the heart of the issue here. The mine didn't just dig up dirt and coal. It totally rewired the social fabric of the town. It created new classes of people and drew these invisible lines that honestly are still there today.
So as the mine got bigger, the town basically split into two camps. You had the locals, the long-term residents. Most of them came from farming backgrounds. They spoke the regional language, Galician. And then you had the newcomers, the company people. They were brought in from outside, were often more formally educated, spoke Spanish, and they got the best jobs and the best houses. Right away, you have this clear social divide.
And listen to this quote from a local shop owner. It really hits home. He says the company folks just didn't mix. They had their own little bubble, their own schools, their own movie theater, even their own church. They lived in the same place, but they were living in a different world. And you can bet the local community noticed.
This teacher puts it even more bluntly. The economic boom wasn't for everyone. If you weren't in the club, with the mining company, you got left behind. And that feeling, that sense of being an outsider in your own town, created this resentment that just simmered for years and years. Okay, so when you know all that, when you understand this deep social split, it suddenly makes a lot more sense why people see the lake so differently, right? Because the lake isn't just a lake. It's the company's final legacy. It's a powerful symbol. The question is, a symbol of what? And the data on this is fascinating. Check this out. If you live in the town center, the heart of the industrial economy, almost 3/4 of people have a positive view at the lake.
But head out to the more remote villages, the places with deeper roots in the old farming life, and that number drops to just 39%. That's a huge difference. It shows that your personal history, where you're from, completely changes what you see when you look at that water.
And you see this same fight playing out online, of course. On a local Facebook page, you've got a majority, about 61%, saying the lake is great. But then you have almost a quarter of the people being super critical. So this isn't just a handful of grumpy people. It's a big, loud, and passionate group that just isn't buying it.
So on the one side, you have people like this business owner. He calls it a special ocean. For him, it's a symbol of a fresh start, a new economy based on tourism. It's pure progress, a total win.
But then you get the total opposite view. This person on an online forum basically says, "Are you kidding me? With all the amazing natural beauty in this part of Spain, who's going to go on vacation next to a massive power plant?" It raises a really good point. For them, the lake doesn't fix the problem, it just covers it up.
And this right here might be the most important piece of the puzzle. The trust is gone. It's completely broken. The authorities can release a mountain of scientific reports saying the water is perfectly safe. But for some folks, a rumor they heard from someone who knew someone at the company, that means more. And you have to ask why. It's because after decades of feeling like the company didn't care about them, facts just don't matter as much as feelings. The trust just isn't there to be rebuilt so easily.
So, what's the bigger picture here? I think the story of As Pontes really makes us question what we mean by environmental restoration. It's pretty clear it has to be about more than just, filling a pit with water.
There's this concept called an addictive economy, and it fits this situation perfectly. Basically, it's when a whole community gets so hooked on one big industry, like mining, that it can't imagine any other way of life. All the jobs, all the money, all the identity is tied up in it. So when it's gone, they don't look for something new. They just want the old thing back. And get this quote from the town's mayor. It's kind of wild. He calls his town an industrial spiritual reserve. Let that sink in. He's basically putting up a giant sign that says, "Hey, we're open for industrial business. Need to build a few more power plants? Bring them on, we won't complain." It just shows you how deep that addictive economy mindset runs. Even the lake is seen as a tool to bring back more of the same.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, for one, a technical fix is never enough. You can do the engineering perfectly, but if you ignore the people, it might not matter. Real restoration has to include restoring trust. Because a place isn't just rocks and trees and water, it's memories, it's history, it's people. And at the end of the day, I think it shows us you can't really heal the land if you don't also find a way to heal the community.
And that's the question As Pontes leaves us with, isn't it? It proves that filling a hole in the ground is actually the easy part. The hard part is when the wounds aren't in the landscape, but in the community itself. When trust has been shattered and people are divided, what does it really take to fix that? What does it take to truly make a place whole again?